Hey everyone, welcome back to Secret Sonics. This is episode 154 with Steven Kerrison. I had a great chat with Steven, and we talked about so many things, including his transition from tour life as a musician into mastering, working hard to make mastering happen for him. We talk about living in Liverpool, the Weird Jungle Mastering Collective that he works in alongside former guest of the show, Katie Tavini, instilling confidence in artists, working in the box, using his instincts to master. We talk about using Seth Godin tactics to market himself, thoughts on vinyl, loudness wars, feeling grateful, and everything in between. So I really enjoyed this chat, and I think you will too. So with all that to say, here's my conversation with Steven Kerrison coming up right here on Secret Sonics. Hey everyone. If you're anything like me, you often find yourself looking for business insight in podcasts. And I'm sure many of you are also into meditation and reflection to help better understand yourself. Former guest of the show, Carl Bonner, decided to launch a podcast that brings these two elements together. It's a series of guided self-reflection exercises, but specifically for freelance creatives like you and me, focusing on the struggles we face as we try to grow our businesses, while also finding more happiness in the work that we do. It's called Thanks for Thinking. It's definitely an unusual format, but if you want to grow your self-awareness, find deeper career satisfaction, and make more money, then I think this podcast might be for you. Experience it for yourself and click the link in the show notes below. You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is Steven Kerrison. Steven is a Liverpool-based mastering engineer who has worked with the likes of Charles Watson, Doom Shakalaka, Roxy Girls, Yama Warashi, and many more. Steven is now a part of the Weird Jungle Mastering Collective alongside former guest of the show, Katie Tavini, who recommended I connect with Steven. I invited him on, and he's graciously agreed to join me on the air. So with all that to say, welcome to Secret Sonics, Steven.
Thanks, Ben. Absolute pleasure. Really nice to be here.
Yeah. So how are things going today? I mean, I'm pretending like we didn't just talk now for, I don't even know what it was, 20 minutes. So I learned that you're based in Liverpool, home of the Beatles, and I happen to be wearing a Beatles shirt today. So that's exciting. It felt like that was a happy coincidence. You know?
That's the universe. That's the universe saying that this conversation was always meant to happen at this exact time.
At this exact time. Yes. Amazing. Well, dude, how are things going for you?
They're going really well. Yeah. So I'm here in Liverpool. I was saying to you earlier, about 100 meters away from Penny Lane. My studio is 10 minutes away from here. So that's where I've been all day. So yeah, it's going great.
Amazing. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, besides from the things that we've already spoken about. Tell me a bit about your journey in music and how it kind of led you to what you're doing today, which is mostly mastering, as far as I understand.
Yeah, it's pretty much just mastering.
Just mastering.
That's where I'm currently at. Yeah, I came to mastering quite late, actually. It's so I guess like almost everyone that you speak to, I started playing in bands when I was a teenager. Yeah, and to be honest, I never really had an enormous interest in the technical side of things, in recording and producing and mixing and stuff like that. I knew I just wanted to do music, and nothing else for forever. Yeah, as I got older, I started taking it more seriously and just putting everything into it, and to varying degrees of success. And it led to some really nice things. I was playing as like a guitarist in bands that were like doing okay and doing a fair bit of touring, and I've seen a lot of the world through it, which is brilliant, and made some amazing friends. And so when I moved not long after, so I used to live in Bristol for a long time. Mm-hmm. I lived in Bristol for about 16 years, where I met a lot of my great friends, and had a brilliant time.
Where is Bristol in relation to like other parts of the UK?
Bristol's southwest.
Okay.
So it's about
near Portsmouth.
Not that far down.
Okay, cool.
So kind of about 2 hours west of London.
Got it.
And Liverpool's
north.
Yeah. And northwest.
Yes.
So it was quite a big life change, because by that point I'd met my wife and we got married, and we knew that we wanted to expand our family, and Bristol's quite an expensive place to live. So we kind of got not, not priced out, but we knew that we could get more life for our money. So we ended up moving to Liverpool, and I was still touring with various things at that point. And I just started to get to the point where I stopped enjoying going out the door. Like, I'd be sort of standing there waiting for a taxi with my guitar and my case and stuff, and just thinking, I kind of don't really want to go, even though I do want to go, and I want to have an amazing time and I want to have an amazing experience. I just thought, it's time to do something else now, I think. But the problem is I didn't have any kind of backup at all. Like, I had no, because I mean, you know what it's like as a musician, like, unless you're putting 100% into it, you might as well not bother anyway. But of course, doing that leaves you with like nothing else.
Right. You go all in and that's it. It's like there's no backup plan. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh shit, what am I going to do now? So so I had a bit of a, like, I don't know what to call it really. I had a bit of a moment.
I would say not a midlife crisis, but a quarter life crisis.
Well, yeah. Well, that's very kind. Getting on for midlife crisis.
But I don't take it you're that much older than I am. So
I'm 41.
Oh wow! Well, you look young. I would have guessed you're in your mid-30s.
Thank you. So yeah, I sat down with a friend, and I was just kind of like just having a bit of a freak out, really. I just don't know what I'm going to do. Like, oh no. And by this point, I was sharing a studio space with a really, really good friend of mine. And we just sat down, we had a big chat, and he was going, man, what do you want? Like, what do you want your day to look like? What do you want to do? Like, if you don't want to travel, but you still want to do music, like, what? He was like, just picture it, like, picture the day. And I just started talking through a load of stuff. And then he just, like, out of the blue, just said, yeah, I think you'd be a good mastering engineer. And I was just like, what? I literally never thought about that in my life. I was like, okay. So I just sort of started looking into it, and then just sort of like, well, what does that really mean? What does that really entail? Obviously, I'd been a musician for donkey's years, so I'd been in countless studios and spent a lot of time in studios and been to mastering houses and all that sort of stuff, but without really paying that much attention, to be totally honest, because I was always just so focused on on performing and all the rest of it. So yeah, I started looking into it. I started practicing, just seeing what it took, and found I really enjoyed it, because it did kind of it did tie into quite a few like musical roles that I'd done before. For example, as a musician, one of the things I always enjoyed were taking songs from a really raw idea and kind of sculpting them into something that resembled something really satisfying and finished. So really, mastering's kind of, it's the same principle, but with a mix, I guess. You're taking something
it's just the end of the
not quite
just the end of the chain, right?
Exactly, yeah. Just taking like something that's like really great, and then just molding it into something that's just going to be perfect, So yeah, that's kind of how I decided to do it.
How long was that? Did that transition take you?
Probably not that long, because I really got the bit between my teeth, and I was like, right, I'm going to learn this. And I sort of started not only learn the technical aspects of it, but just learn like just what it took to do that professionally, and what I needed to do, and what I needed to change, and what I needed to, even just what I needed to buy. Like, I mean, the reality of it is, of course, like, this stuff isn't free, and you've got to kind of make certain investments and things.
Sure.
And being a musician, I was obviously rolling in money.
Yeah, of course.
So
you had to sell your Gibson Les Paul or something.
Yeah, there was a few things that went on eBay, I tell you. But yeah, the nice thing about it though is that because I'd spent so long being a musician, I obviously just had tons and tons of mates who were musicians. So by the time I'd done loads of learning and sort of got to the point where I thought, right, I reckon I could have a crack at this now, just had a whole pool of people that I just could ring up and just be like, cool, if you're making a new record, like, send it my way, and I'm doing this, and I'm, blah, blah, blah. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't matter. Then if it does, then brilliant. So that's how that's how the ball got rolling for me.
Wow, that's really cool. I feel like my story is the exact opposite, in that I've always been pursuing music, and then at a certain point at the same time, like I kind of really was interested in the studio, because it was when I moved to Israel, and I, for the first time in my life, didn't have bandmates, and that kind of piqued my curiosity of like, I need to create something with this if I can't be in a band. And then I started doing audio, and then I did them side by side for so many years, and I'm still to this day sort of very gradually reducing my gigs, but I'm still gigging. Like I still like there's a part of me that gets so much joy on stage that I don't know if I could fully eliminate it. I don't do much of it at this point. I'm gigging maybe twice a month, you know? I'm mostly in the studio, but still, like, there's something about getting on, like, I don't know, like I haven't fully made that separation. Like I feel like most people eventually make a full cut, and I struggle with that full cut, so to speak, you know?
I don't blame you. I mean, I do. I loved it so much. Like, I wouldn't change anything for the world. Like, especially like the touring aspect, like just going out just even for like a week, and just going, right, we're going to play every night.
Yeah.
And we're going to get really good. And, you know, it's just, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. But there's no, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, I just didn't want to leave the door. It's like when you have a family at home, it's like, man, it's so much harder for me to walk out the door now.
Yeah,
I think
definitely. I didn't even have a son at the time either. It was like mostly just like my dog. When we got a dog, I was like, I don't want to leave my dog for a week. I mean, obviously it goes without saying I didn't want to leave my wife either, but like by this point we'd been together for so long, it was just kind of how we did it. But yeah, getting a dog.
That's really funny. Yeah, it's interesting how life changes and you have to kind of adapt. And that's amazing that you were able to switch over so quick. Did you have any mentors, anybody that kind of helped you learn the ropes into getting into mastering like hardcore?
Not officially, no. But I learned quite quickly that like it was a big revelation going, right, you need to speak to people here. Like you can't just set up in a room and go, right, where's my clients? Like it just doesn't work. Like, you know, you've got to speak to people. So I think reaching out to other mastering engineers and stuff, and kind of just like not being afraid to email people was just such a massive thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The realization that if you email someone and they think you're a dick, it doesn't matter. And they probably won't.
Right.
But it doesn't matter either way. Like they said, you just can't lose.
Right.
So that sort of like just reaching out and speaking to people, that was really good, because it kind of because I think the technical aspects of learning mastering is kind of like, it's so much about listening and so much about your personal kind of knowledge of music and musical history, and how you listen to it. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff kind of, it's almost like it can't be taught really. I mean, it can to a point, but that stuff I didn't have to learn just because I'd been so obsessed with music for my whole life. I didn't go to university or anything. I came straight out of school and went to work in HMV, which is a record shop.
So you've just been listening. It's just decades of listening to records, you know.
That's it. So by the time I got to actually learning how do you use a compressor, like it's almost like that sort of stuff's relatively easy, really. Like learning how like EQ works and learning how a compressor and a limiter and stuff works that's kind of the easy bit. I thought it was all the other stuff. I thought this has put me in good stead without me even realizing.
Right. It's being like judicious and knowing how much to EQ or how little to EQ, or when to touch things and when not to do it. And like I feel like a lot of mastering is knowing where to leave the mix as it is, because that was intentional from what I gather. I'm not a mastering engineer. Right?
Yeah. No, that's completely true. And like sometimes you get that wrong.
Yeah. And
because
right.
But this is where communication comes in the most, because like if you've had a conversation beforehand, you both know where you're going.
Yeah.
Then it's great. But sometimes you don't get that information, and you
yeah.
Sorry, I'm literally just speaking from personal experience.
No, for sure.
where you just go, oh, I think they're gunning for this. and then you realize that they weren't at all.
Yeah. And the communication is so important in every aspect of this business. But I think